In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Christ is risen.
Truly is risen.
The very end of this gospel says, Verily, verily, I say to you that the one who heareth my word and believeth the one who has sent me hath everlasting life, and cometh not into judgment, but hath passed over out of death into life. In our world now, and in fact for a long time now, in the Christian sort of ethos, quotes around that, meaning others that are not of the Orthodox Church, this word belief has been kind of watered down to basically mean you intellectually assent to something. That's not belief. Belief is to believe and to do. And we see an example of this first kind of belief, this non-salvific kind of belief in the Acts today. Some words kind of stuck out at me. Maybe they did to you too. The Jews saw the apostles had healed a man, and it was evident to everybody. And they considered the apostles to be laymen. We consider them to be the highest of above a bishop. They're not even really of the office of bishop. They're above the office of a bishop. All bishops come from them, and yet they were considered to be laymen by the Jews. That kind of made me kind of inwardly chuckle a little bit, how little these people knew about what was really happening. But they did know that there had been a healing, and they did know that the people believed it, and they actually believed in the healing too. But they didn't want to have any more preaching by the apostles because it was messing things up for them. So they believed, but not in a saving way. They wanted the apostles to go away. They wanted to punish them, etc., try to get them to shut up. And of course, they never did. This kind of belief is very prevalent in our world. In fact, unfortunately, we have Orthodox bishops that believe in this way, it appears. They say one thing, but then they allow other things. Or they are afraid to really speak the truth. There are bishops that are unable to speak the truth about abortion. There are bishops that are unable to speak the truth about perverted sexuality. So maybe they believe really in these things, or maybe they're just afraid because they have a constituency, many of whom are outside of the church, that they want to have to be esteemed by them, that wouldn't want them to talk like that. So they believe, but they don't believe. Now, if you're like the man who had the son who was demon-possessed, he believed, but he didn't believe. But that was because he was trying to believe. He was trying to believe. He believed, and he knew his weakness. I don't think these Jews who wanted to get rid of the apostles really knew their weakness. They just knew that Jesus was in their way and was an impediment to what they were trying to do. So although they believed the healing occurred, and if you connect the dots, well, how can these healings occur if they're not from God? They didn't want to connect those dots. And even if they probably believed it on some level, but they just couldn't follow through. I remember someone told me once, I don't remember now, but their professor was instrumental in bringing them to Orthodoxy. He was in a Protestant seminary, and he was taught by a professor that was teaching the Church Fathers and loved the Church Fathers. He said, if it weren't for my wife, I would become Orthodox. So he believed, but he didn't believe in a salvific way. May God save him. May God give him paradise. We have to be careful of this kind of belief because it's present in our lives too. We saw it in the pandemic a lot. People who said they believed, but they didn't really believe fully. They kind of hedged their belief a little bit. We can't do that as Christians. We have to believe the truth, and we have to act upon the truth. And what is the truth? Well, it's not what is the truth, it's who is the truth. Jesus Christ is the truth. Now, the Gospel of John today is one of the ones we read for the reposed. We actually read this one also every Monday that we commemorate the reposed. If there was a funeral and such, we would use this Gospel. And St. John's Gospel, more than any other Gospel, is revealing to us the person Jesus Christ, God and man, and his relationship with the Father and his relationship with us, and his relationship, shall we say, with his humanity. Because Jesus Christ's humanity was just as human as ours. but was fully anointed with the Holy Spirit, so that he knew all things, his human nature knew things, that he wouldn't otherwise have known because the Spirit enlightened him. Not because his human nature was superior, but because he was more holy. In fact, perfectly holy, even as a man. And so let's look at this reading a little bit and see the really deep theology that St. John is giving us here, and it's really all over the Gospel of John. My Father worketh until now, and I work. On this account, therefore, the Jews were seeking more to kill him, because he was not only breaking the Sabbath, that is by healing somebody on the Sabbath. Can you believe it? That's breaking the Sabbath. To do good on Sabbath is breaking the Sabbath. They were so paralyzed by their legalism that they thought he was breaking the Sabbath. But not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was also calling God his own Father, making himself equal to God. They understood. They exactly believed, didn't they? They knew what he was saying he was. They knew he was saying he was the Son of God, and they didn't like that at all. So this is clearly when he says, my Father works and I work, he was equating his work with the Father's. And he is even more explicit in a minute. So then Jesus answered. See, he answered. What was the question? There was no question. It was in their minds. There was a tumult, and he answered. He answered and said to them, Verily, verily, I say to you, the Son is not able to do anything of himself unless he see the Father doing anything. For whatsoever that one may do, these things also the Son is doing in like manner. What he's speaking of is that the Son is one in essence with the Father and the Spirit. And therefore, what the Father does, the Son does. If God is here, the Trinity is here. If God is here, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit are here. And God is everywhere. So everywhere, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are present. And everywhere, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit are working. And they do nothing without each other's knowledge or consent. I don't even think you'd use the word consent so much as they just are completely of the same, since they're of the same essence, they're of the same mind, shall we say. And so he goes on to say that the Father loves the Son and shows him all the things which he himself does, and he will show him greater works than these, that ye may wonder. So this is an indication that although the Son and the Father work together and work in the same way, have the same will, that the revelation of the Father comes through the Son. We will know of the Father through the Son. And even as the Father raises up the dead and makes alive, thus also the Son makes alive whom he will. For the Father judges no one, but has given all judgment to the Son. Now, in other places, Jesus says, I cannot judge. Well, he cannot judge as a man, but as the Son of God, he judges all things. So the judgment of the world will occur with Jesus Christ judging the world, not just as man, but as the God-man, and as the King, and as the high priest, and as above all things, when he comes on a cloud over the Mount of Olives that last time. Then he says, the one who honors not the Son honors not the Father who sent him. So if we don't believe in the Son, then we don't believe in the Father. That would mean that, well, Jews that don't understand their religion, and most of them don't understand that their religion points to Christ, they're not honoring the Father. Certainly the Muslims who say that God is not a Father, they explicitly say that. God has no Son, and therefore he is not a Father. They don't honor the Father. They worship a God who does not exist, actually. Now, how many bishops are willing to say that? I understand in some places that might have get a person beheaded, but in free lands, how many bishops are willing to say that? I just saw something by a supposed bishop, very influential, who actually equates the Muslim religion with another way to God. That's pure rank heresy. Pure rank heresy. And the people he's talking to just smile, because this one is willing to, he's willing to do anything. He's willing to be all about the social gospel and about all of these buzzwords that we've heard in the past few years, and very weak about human sexuality, willing to kind of wink at the prescriptions against immorality. All these things. And he's willing to say, well, the Muslims are another way of to life. No, they aren't. By this gospel, they're judged. They don't honor the Father. Because they don't honor the Son, they don't even believe the Son exists. Now, the funny thing is Muslims believe in Jesus Christ as a prophet. He's the second prophet. He's second in order beneath Muhammad. So they honor Muhammad, they honor Christ, but not as God. So they don't honor him. They don't really honor him at all. And then we come to this last verse, which I spoke of first, that the one who hears my word and believes in the one who sent me hath everlasting life, and cometh not into judgment, but is passed over out of death into life. And look at the tense of the verb, has everlasting life. It has passed out over from death to life. So we're doing that now. Now, if he were to be completely explicit, he would be saying, well, you have and you are attaining it more and more every day, something like that, but that wouldn't be all that poetic. But that's what's happening. We have the everlasting life in us, and it's becoming more alive in us, or we are becoming more alive, recognizing it, and being changed by God being in us day by day. I think it's a good exercise for people to read the resurrectional Gospels, not just the ones that for Matins, but the ones that are read for the days of the week too, because there's 7 of them, and we should read those. And we should also read the resurrectional Gospels of Jesus' resurrection. These resurrectional Gospels were about our resurrection. But our resurrection won't occur unless we believe. But that belief must be a true belief, not a lip service belief, like we hear so often. And so many bishops that should be losing their robes, but unfortunately we're not in an age where that can happen. We must believe with action and with purpose. And in my experience, the only way to have that action and purpose is to really work at it, to work at reading the scriptures, to work at loving your enemies, to work at saying your prayers and doing your prostrations and all the rest. Because otherwise we get blinded by the dark light of this world, and we don't see things that are right in front of us. Well, thank God that these laymen, according to the ruling Jews, were brave and never gave up speaking the gospel. And they have transmitted the gospel to us. And we can live the same gospel that they preached. And we can pass over from death to life. In fact, we are indeed doing that right now. God bless you. Christ is risen.